All right. There's Al from the West Coast. Fantastic. Went to the West Coast last year. Got the best week of weather ever. It was amazing. And cool. We've got Heather. Heather, I got your email as well around the cheesecloth. I've got an image to show you, Robert. Perfect example of hijackers on their listing. So that's good. So how many? Got a few more flowing through. We've got Claire. There's Craig. Hey, Craig. There's Daryl. Hope you're well, Daryl. John Miller. Simon's on. We've got Ben. Ange. Fantastic. Testing. I like it. Good on you, John. Now, Ange, I can't see you. We won't actually be seeing other attendees. It'll just be Robert and myself. So no need to panic on the video side of things there. If we get to it, we may bring people in for questions, but we'll probably just do that via the Q&A component there anyway. But that is good. So video can be off, no problem. All right. Okay. So who have I got? Where's Mark Elliott? Mark, I'm just going to make you a panelist, but turn your camera off.
I like Tony. Tony already has a very specific question. He's ready to find out questions. That's good.
Good stuff. Yeah, actually, just while we're waiting on a couple of others, put in some questions. Good. For those of you that don't know, Mark is our key guy, heads up the Amazon Accelerator side of things. All right. Well, look, it's 11:02, and we've got we've got a good number of people on. There was a lot of interest around this one. Actually, like 67 people have registered for this one. So we are, and I notice we're recording, which is great. And we shall begin. All right. So for some reason, Mark, it's just bringing up your. I'm going to mute you as well, Mark. Okay. So let's get the show on underway. Now, back in, I'm trying to think now. I think it was 2014 or 2015.
Sounds about right.
It's about right. Yeah.
A couple years ago, for sure.
So it was coming up to Christmas. We were having a boom of Christmas selling on Amazon, and I started out selling on Amazon 2013, and in the baby category, and this is like a strength for me sometimes is not admin, and we had this letter delivered to like a US kind of virtual mailing place, and also one of my virtual assistants had received a letter, but I never saw it. And it was, so it's like December, I'm delighted. Like we're doing over six figures. We ended up doing like 125,000 US and each month in November and December of this Christmas period. Things go nuts this time of year. Stoked, could not be happier. Then I get this letter from this New York law firm that scared the living daylights out of me, and it was like, basically, we think that you've ripped us off. Show us all of your sales data. We want your children and everything. And it was like, I was sharing it with my business partner Tim, and we're like, holy crap, this is not good. This is not good. And anyway, through a contact with actually a couple of Irish guys, they said, look, have a chat to this guy Robert Wright, and he will be able to tell you, be able to help you. And so get hold of Robert in a bit of a panic, and like, Robert, shit, what's going on here? This is scary as hell. And Robert goes, calm down, boys. It's okay. I'm going to tell you what this letter is and what it isn't. And then Robert, with a very level head, proceeded to talk us through our options and how we could best play this game. And basically, it was a game that was being played by a competitor, because we were doing really well in this baby category, and they wanted us gone. And with a big company with deep pockets and going to a New York law firm at $600 US an hour, showing their intent. And so Robert pretty much goes, well, look, guys, you could probably take this to court and win, but it's going to cost you $100,000 to do that. So funnily enough, we decided against that option because there's no certainties. And so that was, and in the end, we managed to negotiate a solution that meant we got to sell through 90% of our stock and redesigned our product, and we got there, but it still did hurt, right? It was like a $25,000 a month in lost revenue, right? So basically, you play on Amazon, it's not all friendly, and that is business. And so since then, Robert's helped us with a bunch of other things personally in terms of trademarks, and where we've had some sticky issues with hijackers, and also with many of our clients, he's been able to help them in getting trademarks sorted and other issues as well. So and the other thing is that Robert is a bit unique as a lawyer, and he'll probably give you a bit more of his background, but he could see this whole space opening up, and a lot of sellers, like companies, smaller companies like many of us, and it was really like, what can we do to he thought, what can I do to help and to understand this more? So he then started to go, right, I should sell some stuff on Amazon as well, just to really understand it. So Robert's going to share more of that with us. So quite a unique guy to have those skills around trademark, copyright, and also the selling on Amazon as well. So I'm going to, with that intro, I'm going to hand you over to Robert, who will share his screen and add anything to the mix there, Robert. Go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, Hamish, I certainly appreciate the introduction, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with everybody. I'm going to say this evening because it's turning evening over here, but I guess it's the start of the day for you guys. As Hamish was saying, like my practice, I've always been interested in intellectual property, and so that means trademarks and copyrights and patents and how it all works and how you build a business around it. And so when I opened my virtual doors, it was very much with an eye towards helping entrepreneurs, organize a business or register the trademark or negotiate that contract or, secure the copyright and the photos, all that sort of thing. And then, as Hamish had said, all of a sudden I started having people, coming through my doors that were doing private label. They were selling on Amazon, and the tone of the conversations and the questions that I was being asked changed dramatically. It was no longer, hey, how do I register a trademark? It was, how do I, my listing's been hijacked. What do I do? How do I get brand registered? Can I get gated? Why don't I have the buy box? Those sorts of things. And, the first time someone ever came to me and said, I've been hijacked. I literally, I'll never forget it. It was a Facebook message. Someone had sent me something over Messenger and said, I've been hijacked. Can you help? And I literally, I'm like, do you need me to call the police? Like, what's going on? Like, is this a criminal sort of thing? It sounds ridiculous now because, it's Amazon nomenclature, but at the time it was just a complete foreign world to me. So thankfully I had some clients that, have a course that teach you to sell on Amazon and other relationships that were doing private label, and basically went to them and said, hey, mentor me for a year, like teach me how to do this. And I did so selfishly because, as Hamish would tell you, it's an amazing opportunity on Amazon.com. The fact that you can spin up a business and sell to just millions of consumers, pretty quickly, as opposed to running a traditional brick and mortar. I was very interested in that opportunity. But also in terms of the law practice, I thought, the only way I'm going to be able to really support my clients is to stand in their shoes. And I need to understand why you want to be brand registered. And I want to understand what it means to be gated. I want to understand, what happens when you're hijacked and just how that feels and how the Amazon system works. And so, I've just kind of developed a pretty niche practice around it. And, it just couldn't be having more fun, frankly, with the whole thing. So with that said, Hamish had said, how do we, for you folks that are either, already selling through distributors over here, or you're looking to do that yourself and get into the States on your own, what are some kind of tips and tactics that you all could use as you enter into this amazing new marketplace. And so with that, in that vein, we came up with this presentation: kick hijackers to the curb now. 3 things you must do now to keep your listings hijacker free forever. And that's what we're going to talk about. So let me see if I can actually get this into a proper.
Yeah, go slide, and then it should be slide, and then oh no, that's
nope, we're not going to do that. We're going
I
to
personally haven't used this one.
do present. Let's see.
There you go. Look at that.
Look at that.
Amazing. So folks, as we go through, look, if you do post questions, and we will be keeping an eye out for questions. So do Q&A, and I'll stop and ask those to Robert if it's appropriate, or at the end we've also got time as well. So while this is down for 1 hour, if we need to go a little bit longer with questions, then we can do.
Happy to do that.
And,
but certainly as we go through, chime in, because this is, it's more fun, frankly, if this is interactive. So
yeah, that's right. And again, just the context as well, which will be covered through here. It's like, many of you will have heard about brand registry, which is getting your brand on the platform, but it's like when other people are coming and selling on your listing, like what the heck is that about, and how do you get control back? So that's really the what we're looking to do. So Robert, back over to you. Go for it.
Absolutely. So right out of the gate, I'm going to scare you a little bit. Actually, let me see a little bit there. I want to start from this premise that you don't own your listing. When you create a listing on Amazon.com, you don't own it. It's not yours. And that's counterintuitive to everything that you're feeling when you go in and you create the listing, right? Like, creating a product listing creates a sense of ownership, right? I mean, you went in and started clicking buttons, and all of a sudden a listing, creator came up, and you put in the title, and you put in the bullet points, and you uploaded the photos, and you put in the sales copy, you put in the back-end keywords, you added inventory to the listing. I mean, there's very much this sense of ownership, but right out of the gate, I'm going to tell you, you don't own anything. The only thing that you own the copyright and the product photos. So as you took those product photos and you uploaded them, great. Those are your product photos. You own the copyright there. The advertising copy that you added to the listing, you own that. That's your own sales copy. But the third bullet point here is key. The listing itself is owned by Amazon, okay? The only right that you have, the only thing that Amazon has given you when you created that listing is the opportunity to create a page in their really, really big online catalog, okay? And so anyone selling the same exact item associated with your ASIN can sell on, quote unquote, your listing. So think about that for a second. Anyone selling the same exact item associated with your ASIN can sell on your own listing. And if you don't believe me, this is straight from Amazon seller policies and code of conduct. This is one of the Amazon rules. This is one of the 10 commandments. You must not create a product detail page for a product already in Amazon's catalog. That means if you go to Amazon's catalog and your product detail page, your product is already there, you can't create a new page. You have to use you've got to list on that page. Amazon requires that. That's the rule. That's one of the 10 commandments. You cannot, if you're selling a pair of Nike shoes and there's a page in the catalog already created for Nike shoes, you can't create a new page. You've got to use the one that's already there, right? And so that's counterintuitive to everything, right? That you feel when you're creating a listing or that you're bringing this product into the platform. And that's scary. But there's kind of a caveat. There's a little bit of hope. When you list a product for sale, again, this is Amazon Seller Policies Code of Conduct. When you list a product for sale using an existing product detail page, the product being offered must be listed on a product detail page that accurately describes the product in all respects. And obviously that's underlined, so that's key, right? Like, if you go to a product detail page, you've got to make sure that everything matches up 100%. That means if it's branded, the branding has to be the same. That means if there's a SKU, the SKUs has to be the same. If there's a barcode, the numbers have to be the same. If there's a bundle, the bundle has to be the same. If it's a color, the color has to be the same. I mean, whatever you're selling or whatever another seller is selling in association with the listing page has to match 100% what's in that detail page. All right. And that's going to be key because that essentially sets up a construct of 3 different types of sellers on Amazon. Okay. Now admittedly, I'm a nerd and I love comic book movies. And I recently watched Avengers Infinity War. So, for the other comic book nerds in the audience, these are comic book characters here. You have, on one hand, you have Iron Man. You have, that's the guy with the nice shiny, nice beard, kind of like this that I'm working on here. You've got Captain America over here, the first Avenger, right? And then you've got this really nasty guy in the back. And so if anybody watched Infinity War, that's Thanos. That's the guy that, for whatever reason, he sees that things are out of balance and he wants to go and collect these Infinity Stones, snap his fingers, and immediately take half of the universe with him. I mean, that's Thanos's whole mission. In an Amazon framework, you have Captain America, who's the original listing creator. It's that person who owns the brand, presumably, that has created the product listing page, who's uploaded the photos, who said, this AISN 00001 is for a pair of Nike shoes that are black that come with a bundle of toe socks. That's the original listing. That's Captain America. They're the first Avenger. They're the first seller. They're the brand owner, right? And then there's Tony Stark over here, Iron Man. That's the guy that you've allowed to join the Avengers. That's the guy you've invited to the product detail page. That's the person that you have a distribution agreement. You've allowed them on the listing. They're on the listing. They're friends. Hopefully they're friends. There's civil war where they break up, but you have a relationship with them. You know who they are, and they're on your side. Maybe you're selling them wholesale. They're distributing via Amazon, but you're still making money. You're working together. But then there's Thanos. That's the hijacker. That's the guy, that's the Chinese supplier with nefarious intent that comes in, and he doesn't want to take half of the universe with him. He wants to take half of your sales. And it happens all the time because we know, Captain America, you, the primary brand owner, you don't own the listing. Amazon does. You just have the right to sell on it. You just have, Tony Starks of the world that you have contractual relationships with, have the right to sell on that listing page. Thanos, that hijacker, that counterfeiter, that bad dude, is the one that has hopped on there uninvited. Maybe he's dropped the price. Maybe he's selling knockoff goods. Maybe he's just, hoping to just kind of wait you out. But he's taken half of your sales, right? And so I know a lot of you guys already have, brick and mortar, businesses. You all already have distributors over here that are brick and mortar that are now getting into the Amazon space. And one of the questions Hamish was talking to me about is map. If this is the construct, if there's the good guys of, the brand owner, your Captain Americas and your distributors, the Tony Stark, Iron Mans of the world, how do you keep Iron Man in the fray? How do you make sure that they're not turning into Thanos? How do you make sure that they're not doing anything nefarious and damaging your brand or, undercutting you on price? And my answer to that is that has nothing to do with Amazon. There's no, brand registry or transparency, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. That's not going to help you necessarily, right? That relationship starts like any relationship. It's like a marriage. It's a contract. It's an agreement that you have to have in place. As you go out and you leverage your Tony Starks of the world to get product to market, you've got to have a strong distribution agreement in place. And that distribution agreement isn't just, here's, quantity and price and, maybe some niceties, some boilerplate legalese. That agreement's got to talk about expectations, and it needs to talk about expectations in a frame of reference of Amazon. Are they allowed to sell on Amazon? If they sell on Amazon, are they allowed to, secure brand registry? If they secure brand registry, do they have an obligation to police the listing? Are there certain prices that they can't go under? Are they able to take the product and bundle it with another product to create a new listing? There's a lot of wrinkles and a lot of angles that you need to think through. But as you think, if this metaphor of Thanos, Captain America, and Tony Stark makes any sense, my hope is that it resonates with you in terms of you've got to make sure that relationship between the Avengers, your Captain Americas and Tony Starks of the world, is solid and strong. You don't want a civil war. You don't want that to happen. You've got to, right from the gate, you've got to have a strong agreement that clearly states expectations of what can and cannot be done. And more importantly, if there's a violation of that agreement, if there's a breach of trust, if Iron Man does something that Captain America, said he couldn't do, what's the remedy? I love contracts. Contracts do a great job of really, setting out expectations and the parameters of a deal. But the best contract, the contract on its own is just an empty piece of paper, right? I'm a lawyer, and courts are great, and alternative dispute resolutions, mediation and arbitration, all those sorts of things are great, but they're expensive and they're time consuming. And oftentimes, business is hard enough. There are a handful of circumstances where you really want to get in the trenches and litigate things. I know that sounds really strange coming from a U.S. lawyer where we're so litigious over here, but you've got to have a business. You've got to be able to do business. You've got to carry on and be able to do business, do it economically, efficiently. And so as you think about these relationships and the contracts that you have with them, expectations, parameters, and remedies, making sure that if there's a breach, here's what happens. If Iron Man does something that he's not supposed to do, here's the consequence for that. It's clearly spelled out, not something that needs to be litigated, not something that needs to be mitigated or arbitrated. It's clear as day, plain and simple in the contract, so that you're not holding up an empty piece of paper. You can clearly point to say, you know what, Tony, you shouldn't have been selling that product for under $9.99. We agreed to that. I've got evidence that you did. I'm cutting you off. You get no more. You're going to give me your inventory. If you don't ship it within 48 hours, here's what's going to happen. It's those sorts of things. So just as you all think about these relationships, think about not just what the expectations are, but what are the remedies in the event that those expectations aren't lived up to. Okay?
So that, Robert, that's great. And I've got a question that hasn't come through, but it may be on people's mind as well. So right at the get-go, and so if I'm a New Zealand company sending products into America, can I say to my distributors that I'm going to do Amazon, you don't have permission to do that?
Absolutely.
And it's okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, can I say to that distributor, and you need to tell your retailers that you're selling to that they can't sell this on Amazon as well?
Absolutely. That's the beauty of a contract, right? Like it can be anything you want it to be. And so if you're selling product, you're effectively giving them certain rights, that distributor certain rights to do certain things. And if there's a specific territory you don't want them to sell in, online or offline, you're absolutely able to do that. 100%.
Great. Okay, so that's good to know. Then just on MAP pricing, which is what they start off with, the MAP, minimum agreed pricing. That I mean, so if you do go, hey, it's okay, if they kick up a stink and go, well, look, we're not going to buy any of your product, but like whatever, if it gets to the point where they say they want to sell on Amazon as well, then like in America, at least you can be saying, well, here is the MAP pricing. It needs to be $19.99. It can't go lower than that. Yeah. And so this really becomes a distribution control matter, doesn't it? Like contractually, and your distribution control. Linked to that then is, I guess, the tracking of your inventory in terms of, be it by batch code or some other means that you can track it back to to a particular person you've sold to, which I guess kind of will link to this transparency thing that you'll talk about.
It really does. And, as you think about this and you think about relationships, the contract is certainly one of the pieces of the puzzle, right? Because it's going to lay out those expectations, but then administratively you have to monitor, you have to make sure that people are living up to those expectations. You have to track down inventory. It's not a small undertaking. Now we'll talk about a little bit later. The large focus of this presentation is brand registry. It's very purposeful because brand registry leads you ultimately to transparency, which is effectively in short order. It's a new program that Amazon has that and it's new, but if it works the way that Amazon says it's going to work, it's going to really lessen the administrative burden of tracking down inventory. It's going to basically eliminate kind of your nefarious Thanoses of the world, those hijackers that just pop on, you don't know who they are, you don't know what they're doing, because Amazon is going to issue very specific query codes. And then those query codes you're going to be able to give to your distributors. You're going to know exactly, who's authorized to sell, what products they're selling, who sold what, where they got it from. I mean, it's going to allow you to kind of, just peek behind the curtain in terms of the relationships that you have with your various distribution channels. And ultimately, if you have a listing that's a transparency listing, if you don't have those codes on your products, they're never going to make it into Amazon's warehouses. They're going to get destroyed. So we'll talk a little bit about that more here at the end of the presentation, just because it's a new program, but Amazon gets a lot of salt thrown its way in terms of, well, they don't care about sellers. And I've certainly seen instances of that. I don't think it's that they don't care about sellers. I think that Amazon's a ginormous company, and it's changing turning a ship is not something that's done very quickly. Amazon knows that it has a problem with counterfeit. It knows that it has a problem with people abusing kind of its own policies around listings, and listings on putting products on listings that they shouldn't be on. And transparency is, one of their first attempts to really hit a home run and figure that out and solve for it. So a lot of good stuff, coming from Amazon with that respect.
Yeah, that's good. And so kind of linked to that, I've had a question come through. Someone's going, how do you know who Iron Man is? Like, because often when you're looking at the other sellers, you actually don't, it could have whatever storefront name they want to put there, and you can email them, but if they just ignore you, so I guess that's one thing. And I guess
so let's solve for that. Like the funny answer is, well, he's got a suit and he's got he's got nanobots in his chest and that sort of thing. Why not put that in your MAP agreement to say, listen, in consideration for me entering into this agreement with you, you've got to tell me what accounts you're using to sell on Amazon. Give me your usernames, give me your storefronts, give me your whatevers, so that who Iron Man is. You basically shine a light on them, ask them to self-identify. And then, there are, if you don't know who they are, then they're going to be more a Thanos than an Iron Man. And you're going to have a different strategy for dealing with that particular company.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example of that here in just a little bit, because as a private label seller myself, I've had my own Thanos that I've had to deal with. So
that's good. So Catherine, who asked the question, we have already got the situation of other sellers, and this transparency side of things will start to be useful, but we better keep on marching on. We can maybe get back to some of these questions near the end as well. Okay.
All right, cool. All right. So what's a hijacker? I've already told you it's Thanos. It's that ugly guy in the middle of the previous slide, but it's basically someone on a listing selling a product that doesn't, quote unquote, accurately describe the product in all respects. Remember, that's the rule. To be on that listing, that product that's being sold, whether it's in the buy box or it's in, kind of a third party non-buy box seller, that whatever they're selling has to accurately describe the product in all respects. It's got to match 100%. And there's a number of ways that a product being sold by a hijacker might not match. It could be that the product is a generic product. Your product's branded, their product that they're selling isn't. It could be that they're wrong.
And this is where, like, and you may come to it, but one of the things is in doing a test purchase, isn't it? So you literally you buy the product.
I'll tell you, that's good. That's good. That's a good foreshadowing, Hamish, because I'll tell you all about that here in a second.
Great. You go for it.
Not missing. It could be the product they're selling is missing a trademark. It could be that it's wrong barcode. That they have. You have a very specific EAN or barcode associated with it, UPC. It could be that they're missing that. It could be that you sell a bundle. You sell a product that, it comes with a mini level, and what they're selling is just the primary product. It's not a bundled item, but the result is the same. If that hijacker is missing any of this stuff, if you have a hijacker on your listing, you're losing sales. Okay. And so that's why we care so much about it. In a perfect world, in a perfect universe, you own the buy box, you're the only person on the listing. But that's kind of depending upon what you're selling, and that's almost a unicorn, right? You can't always be that, so we have to make it tough on folks. Now, as we were looking through the slides, Hamish was like, "What's up with these dryer balls? Like, why is there a big slide of dryer balls?" And I said, "Well, those are my dryer balls. Those are, a product that I sold, in the previous year. And it was really, the marketplace was kind of interesting for it. They were moving large volumes. There were multiple sellers. There weren't any really great bundled items. The bundled item that everybody was selling was like a bag to put the dryer balls in. But I thought I'm game for this. Like, it looks like these are moving. It's such a nice little case. The margins might not be, normally as big as I like, but I think I can move volume on this. And so I didn't get creative. I did all the things that I tell clients not to do. How do you put a trademark on a wool dryer ball? You want a clean wool dryer ball, right? You don't want dryer balls with writing all over it. So I didn't do that. I didn't have a good bundled item, because I'm like, everybody's selling a bag, and, bags are kind of silly. And I'm not going to do a bag. I just sold about the most generic set of wool dryer balls ever. Now, the one thing I did was on the packaging. I just had a simple poly bag. I just made a basic label, and it was just, a dumb PowerPoint label, and it had my trademark on it. It said Brentmore on it. Plain as day. Brentmore 6-pack wool dryer balls, right? So that's what happened to me. Okay. Well, everything's going along fine. And as we all know, I check my phone every day, and I'm looking at my Amazon sales, and you get a feel for what a good day looks like, right? Well, all of a sudden I had a day with my wool dryer balls where sales were ticking along, and all of a sudden, boom, gone, just completely gone, right? And I thought, well, something must be wrong. Maybe there's something wrong with the listing. Maybe I'm out of stock. I didn't think so, because I check on that regularly, but there's something wrong. And so I started to investigate, and sure enough, someone had taken over the buy box. I had my own Thanos. I had a hijacker. Now, for this particular product, because I don't believe in just, needlessly filing trademarks. I think certainly on a kind of a test product like this, where I was validating the market, I wasn't going to invest the time or the money in the trademark registration. And it's a lengthy process. And I was just going to see how sales were going. So here I am in kind of the classic situation of, I've got a product. There's not strong branding associated with it. I'm not brand registered. And I've got a hijacker, and I'm losing all my sales, and I've got a lot of wool dryer balls to sell. And so what do? Well, like Hamish had just said, I did a test buy, because I knew the Amazon rules, and I knew whoever, that Thanos had to match my listing exactly. And I knew my listing indicated that my dryer balls were Brentmore branded. I knew the product that I sold came in a nice little bag with, albeit a cheaply made label, but a label with branding on it. And I knew I had enough, that if this seller, if this Thanos didn't have those things, if they were just selling 6 wool dryer balls, I could get them removed from the listing. So I made a test buy. I'm a Prime member. So 2 days later, I get my wool dryer balls in the mail, and I open up the box, and I've taken pictures, and I've got my video camera going, showing the whole thing. I've made sure that I've, kept the order ID and the tracking number. And it is clear what I've done, right? I'm tracking every step along the way. And I open up the box, and you know what I find? I find a 6-pack of just wool dryer balls. No Brentmore branding, no UPC, no anything. And so I immediately take all of that evidence. I take, the fact that I've got photos, I've got a tracking ID, I've got an order number, I've got a video, and I reach out to Amazon, and I remind them of their own rules. I say, Amazon, per your own terms of service, you state that any product being sold in association with a listing has to match that listing 100%. Here are the details of my wool dryer balls. Here's the ASIN. Here's the branding. Here's the label. Here's the UPC. Here's all the things that customers expect to receive when they buy my wool dryer balls. And here's what I received in the mail. And here are the differences. And please take these people off the listing. I'm not objecting to them selling wool dryer balls. I do not own the market in wool dryer balls, but they have to create their own listing. They cannot sell on mine. Within 24 hours, taken care of. The Thanos was gone. The hijacker was removed, and I continued to sell on my wool dryer balls. So there is my own hijacking story. And I give it to you as an example. One, it's an actionable tip or technique that you can use for your own products and your own brand, even when you're not brand registered, even when you're not, participating in transparency. It's a little bit of a guerrilla tactic, but the thing that I've learned doing private label law is the law is great. The law is interesting. The law gives you a lot of recourse. It gives you a lot of remedies. And Amazon's certainly interested in that to a certain effect, but if you really want to strike at the heart of the matter, if you really want to get quick results, use Amazon's own rules, point to Amazon's own policies, show a violation. You get very quick action when you can show that. So just, a little bit of advice for you as you venture into .com.
That's good. So that process that you just talked through there, that is something that, well, we've got the recording of this anyway, so we'll document that for people if you haven't got it already. But it is, it's the test buy
It's the
method there.
test buy. And it's one strategy. As I've dealt with hijackers, I was gonna say, why does it matter? I mean, here's another client example that I had. They had a single product, $9.99, making 25 sales a day, resulting in, nice $2,000 US per month. With a simple hijacker, they literally lost half their sales in a week and a half. I mean, literally, those couple of days of realizing you have a hijacker, those couple of days of a test buy, those couple of days of back and forth with Amazon. I mean, it really, if you've got somebody, I make this metaphor of Thanos. In the movie, he's a really bad dude. He's a really bad guy. He wipes out half of the universe, and it's very true. This is one of my clients just in a week lost half of their sales just because somebody else jumped on their listing. So, hijacker is kind of a funny term. It's a cute story of, me getting a message and saying, hey, do I need to call the police? But in terms of business realities, like, it's no laughing matter. It's a really big deal. When someone jumps on a listing that shouldn't be there. All right. Now, Amazon's the problem and the solution, right? Amazon has a financial interest in running a clean platform. There have been other, eBay is a great example. I mean, it's still a somewhat viable sort of platform, but it used to be the platform. And then it suffered from issues of counterfeits and effectively hijacking and trademark infringement and gray market goods and all those sorts of things. And eBay is not what eBay used to be. Amazon doesn't want to be eBay. So they have a financial interest in making sure that they don't encounter those same problems, right? They want to, the more sellers they have, the more products that are moving, they make more money. But the problem is the process that you have for creating an Amazon listing makes it really, really easy for listings to be hijacked. But the good thing is, because it's e-commerce, they also have a mechanism for making hijackers, easily removed. And I just told you, I mean, within 24 hours, I had to wait 2 days for a test buy and, put together an email and kind of put together that evidence. But all things considered, like it's a pretty effective way of dealing with someone who is selling a product that they shouldn't have, right? And the way that you get, I told you kind of the quick and dirty guerrilla tactic for dealing with an issue like that. Brand registry helps with that too, right? Brand registry, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. It basically says, you know what, Amazon, we're Amazon, and we acknowledge that we have this problem, and we acknowledge that, legitimate, good, solid brands deserve certain rights and privileges and benefits. So how do we reward, and kind of, let the cream of the crop rise to the top on the platform? Amazon's done that through brand registry, right? And so we're going to talk about that. But brand registry takes an investment in your business. Brand registry requires you to act like a big brand, right? And kind of the mantra that I have, and I echo all to clients as they think about, well, should I invest the money in doing this? Should I not invest the money? Is, if you're serious about your business, take your business seriously. When you think about things like trademark registrations or copyright filings or patent applications or contracts, or I'll be the first one to admit lawyers, can bill a lot of money, right? And it can be just like this huge expense. I mean, Hamish's example at the start of, you can go to court, but it's going to be $100,000, and that's great that you won, but you're out $100,000. That there are certainly times that you need to make those decisions, but you also have to think about legal filings and legal protections as an investment, because ultimately it is one in your business, especially as you do Amazon. All right. So one of those investments is brand registry, right? Brand registry 2.0 is kind of what people commonly refer to it. Brand registry has been around for a while. Brand registry 1.0 was kind of, you filled out a form, maybe you had a registered trademark, maybe you didn't. Maybe you weren't, you were kind of acting like a big brand, but you really weren't, but Amazon would say, hey, you're brand registered, and you would get certain things, right? You would get, a better listing, and maybe you could participate in some advertising stuff, but it was kind of weak in terms of like actually giving a brand any rights to enforce its various rights on the platform. That's not the case with Brand Registry 2.0. So Brand Registry 2.0 is basically, Amazon saying, listen, we've got a counterfeit problem. We've got a gray market good problem. We've got a hijacker problem. We got to make sure that legit good brands rise to the top. So how do we do that? If they are acting, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. If it looks like a big brand and it acts like a big brand, we're going to treat it as a big brand, and we're going to respond to complaints that they have with a lot more force and effect than all the other people, right? So Brand Registry 2.0 was announced. Brand Registry 2.0 requires you to have a registered trademark. You cannot pass go unless you have a registered trademark, okay? And the benefits are huge. Like enrolled brands, and these statistics are directly from Amazon, enrolled brands and Brand Registry report 99% fewer suspected infringements than non-registered brands, meaning that the mechanisms and tools that Amazon gives you, it just greatly allow you to police your own listings, to scare people away, right? 99% fewer suspected infringements. Amazon gives you, as a brand registered brand, a global infringement support team available 24/7. And it's true. I mean, it follows the sun all across the world. There is somebody answering emails. And in fact, they're not just answering emails saying, no, you didn't give us enough information. They are taking action on 95% of all complaints from brand registered owners. That's huge. I mean, you're basically, if you are brand registered, that is a huge feather in your cap. And then being brand registered allows you to participate in transparency. This new program, this innovative program that Amazon has, where you go to Amazon, they give you specialized codes, you put them on the packaging, and as those products come into the marketplace, if those codes don't match, if the products don't have the codes on them, those products are immediately destroyed. They never see the light of day on Amazon.com. But that benefit only is given to legit brands. Legit brands have registered trademarks. Legit brands are brand registered. Okay, so
just Robert, just before you move on from this here, so getting a couple of questions around the actual brand that's being registered. That now, so because someone's going, does the registered trademark need to be specific to products or only to the brand name? Because some people have, products that are almost like brands in themselves. So how do you kind of delineate that?
Yeah, so great question. Like, and it kind of gets to the basics of trademarks. So a trademark is any name, logo, or slogan that you take and you put on a product, you put on a service with the intent of distinguishing from every other product or service in the marketplace. It's basically the sticker you put on a product and make it your own, to stand out, to shine in the market, right?
Yeah.
And so there are those brands that I'll call a house brand. Like I have a house brand. I have just a generic kind of dumb brand name that I've sold milk frothers and wine racks and wool dryer balls and weighted blankets and the most random collection of stuff under, right? Yeah. That's a house brand. That's great. But the way a trademark works is all of those products, all of the products or services that you could possibly sell are divided into 45 classes. And so when you take that mark and you stick it on a product and you register that trademark, it has to be associated with one of those specific classes. And when you start selling a product under that brand name in a class that's outside of that, you have to go back and register in that class. So a lot of people think about trademark registrations as being just, a one and done sort of thing. It's not. It's something that you continually revisit. It's a portfolio. I talk about trademarks as being a portfolio. It's not just a single sheet of paper, not just a single registration. Those are assets to your business, and we'll talk about why they are here in a second, but it's something that is always going to grow, and you're going to have a nice stack of them at the end of the day, because when you go to exit, you're going to get more for your business if you do.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have a house brand and you just maybe you have a couple of brands. Nike's a great example, right? Like Nike is a house brand. They put it on shorts and shoes and hats and soccer balls and all sorts of stuff, right? I guess it's football. We're the only people who call it soccer, but football balls. In addition, Nike has the brands under it. They have Nike Air. They have the Jordan brand. They have the Carmelo Anthony brand. They have, they have a number of just kind of sub brands that are all very specific to different lines of products. All of those are different trademarks. So as you think about, well, does it have to be tied to the product? Does it have to be tied to the company name or the brand name? Really, it's whatever's on that label in association with that product. And it could be that you have multiple trademarks depending upon how you're running your business.
Right. So it could be, so like, because so the guy who asked this, they've got like SwiftPoint is their brand name, but they've got the SwiftPoint Z and the SwiftPoint GT, like two different products.
Okay.
And they've got
So
a number of people selling.
So three different brands there. You have the SwiftPoint, which is a retailer of whatever those products are. The SwiftPoint Z, it could be a model number, or if you're using it for branding purposes, that's its own trademark.
Mm.
The other one would be another trademark. It really kind of depends upon if you choose to leverage it as, well, this is just a version of a SwiftPoint product, or whether it's, no, this is how we market it. This is, not just this is the product name. This is how it stands out against other similar marks or other similar products. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe, so Dan, can you tell me, is that clarifying for you? Or, so he's got thanks there.
Okay.
So that's, I think that helps. I mean, arguably you could be going under, because it's all in the mouse category. Like one's a gaming mouse, one's more of a work mouse. So it's still, so you could be fine with just one SwiftPoint.
It totally could, and that's one of those things. Like as you think about trademarks, I'm really big in making sure that you're using you're making wise investments. You're not over registering. You're doing registrations that make sense. And so one of the things any trademark attorney worth their salt is they sit down and kind of get to understand your business, get to understand your brand. That's going to be one of the questions that they ask. I have a client that they're in the bicycle field. I didn't realize how hyper technical bicycle parts are, but they're really hyper technical. And that was it. We had a very similar conversation because they have kind of that primary SwiftPoint, if you will, branding. And then they have a number of various different products that they sell that are all bicycle related, and they are all variations of that SwiftPoint name. And so we really did a deep dive in terms of, okay, here are your options. I mean, the way that you're using, technically you have about 10 registrations here. And, here's the investment that would be, not just from a legal perspective, like a lawyer fee perspective, but a filing fee perspective. Does that really make sense? Or where you are in your business development, does it make sense to just kind of protect the primary brand? And then maybe the kind of those variations are add-ons later on. So as you all go through the trademark registration process, any attorney with their salt's really going to get to understand your business, really going to get to understand your brand, what your goals are for your business. Are you just trying to get registered to get brand registry, or are you purposefully trying to build a portfolio for exit? Are you looking to exit in a year? Are you looking to exit in 5? Are you looking to exit in 2 decades? Because the strategies for each are really going to be different. So
right. So that's good. And that's where having a chat with you is a good idea. Anyway, let's keep back on track just around how to get brand registered.
So how do you get brand registered? Like I said, you got to have a trademark, right? Doesn't have to be in the United States. It's always advisable to register where you sell and where you care about those sales, but it doesn't have to be in the United States. Currently, for brand registry purposes, Amazon.com is accepting certain foreign registrations. So Australia is one of them. The UK, the EU, Spain, France, Germany, Italy. There's a number of other places. Highlighted Australia for you guys just because I know, I've had experience with, some of Hamish's clients, and they do have Australian marks. So if you have one, you can leverage that for brand registry. If you have a New Zealand mark, a New Zealand registered mark, while Amazon's not going to allow that for brand registry, there are mechanisms where you can take that registration and very easily kind of get it ported over to one of these other countries. It's something called the Madrid Protocol. It's a decently simple process, a straightforward process. It's less involved than, kind of an independent filing either in the States or the UK or the EU. There's certain disadvantages, to it, but also certain pluses. So if you are, a current rights holder, you have a New Zealand trademark, certainly something to think about in terms of and discuss with, whoever's doing your filing. Is that something that you could leverage to maybe quicken the process, speed up the process, to get brand registered, if that's the ultimate goal? Okay. Now, the big word of caution here, this list: Australia, the UK, EU, Spain, France, Germany, Italy, and the fact that Amazon.com allows foreign registrations to secure brand registry, that is all subject to change. Okay, that's what Amazon is currently doing. What they're doing, I don't think makes a whole lot of sense. And so I suspect they're going to change it. But as of today, because I checked just last night to confirm, yeah, they're still allowing that. So just FYI for you.
Yeah, good.
All right. Benefits of registration are simple. A trademark registration allows you to police your brand on Amazon. It also allows you recourse off the platform, right? So if you have somebody that has a Shopify store, maybe someone's doing something on eBay that they shouldn't be. Maybe you find a brick and mortar store that is selling products and passing them off as yours. The registered trademark here in the States is going to allow you an avenue of recourse. All right. It is also going to give you the opportunity to kind of proactively block competitors from using confusingly similar names. When you are registered, your trademark is on the books. No one else can register a confusingly similar trademark for similar products. That's great. So if you have kind of a niche-y sort of name, get it registered. And then, it doesn't mean that other people can't sell in your niche, doesn't mean they can't sell similar type products, but they're going to have to come up with a super different name, which is a good thing. And then the final bullet point I put in here just because I think it gets overlooked. People are oftentimes so, concerned about the investment that it takes to do a trademark registration. They are, concerned with, just the outgoing expense. Ultimately, a trademark registration or a copyright registration or a patent registration are all assets to your bottom line. My practice is really kind of helping Amazon sellers build their business. I have a colleague whose practice is focused on selling e-commerce businesses. And I'll check in with him from time to time just to kind of make sure, hey, as I'm laying a foundation, am I giving them good guidance? Am I laying a good, foundation for you to do a sale? And, I said, trademark registrations, like, what are you seeing in the marketplace in terms of exits? Those companies that obviously have to have great products, you have to have a number of SKUs, you have to have good sales, you have to have solid financials. But those companies that have protected their intellectual property, they've filed their trademarks, they've firmed up their copyrights. Maybe they have a patent, maybe they don't. They typically get 3 times more for their business than those same sellers that just have good sales or a couple of good SKUs or a couple of interesting products. So, having intellectual property registrations, it ultimately adds to your bottom line. So as you all go out and you start protecting your IP, yeah, it's a cost, but it's also an investment. And it's one that at the end of your journey, whether that's a year, 5 years, whatever, it's going to come back to you if you've built a solid business. So just remember that.
Yeah, good call. Good.
Common questions: how long does it take? Well, it depends on where you register. Here in the States, it takes about 9 months if everything goes perfectly. If there's any sort of hiccup, any sort of clarification, any sort of concern, by the office, then it can go easily 2-3 years, depending upon what happens. The UK, much quicker. It's about 3 months. It's very fast. EU, about 3 months. So if you are selling in different marketplaces and brand registry is your goal, it could be that you look to register in a place like the UK before you do in the States, just to get brand registry quickly. What does it cost? Filing fees alone, I said there are 45 classes of goods and services. Filing fees alone are about $275 US per class. Legal fees can range anywhere from, I've seen, I think LegalZoom is kind of like, which is an online kind of, you file it yourself sort of thing, is a couple $100 for a basic trademark registration. A large firm for a very basic registration is easily, $1,700 or so. So, and everything in between, that's kind of the spectrum. And then when should you register your trademark? I say it should be done as early in your journey as possible, but it should be done so responsibly. I had a client that I was talking to today, or a prospective client, and she's very early on in her journey. She has a couple of products that she kind of sort of likes. She wants to get brand registry, but, she's not really sure, she's going to stick with these products. And so really, as much as I would love to register a trademark for her because it would be a fee and it'd be, food on the table sort of thing, it's not the right time for her. She doesn't have a product that she loves. She's not committed to it. She's probably not going to do a reorder. She's got to get that first product that makes sense for her that she's going to stick with. And that's the right plan for her. So do it as early as possible, but don't over register. Don't, just because you can register doesn't mean you should. Register in the countries where you sell, where those sales matter, is really kind of the mantra that I'll direct people back to.
Robert, one thing here is, because a lot of the people on this call are from established companies already, and a lot of them will already have a, say, New Zealand trademark, for example. Then sorry, I keep on flicking back over to questions and come back here. Very bad at multitasking. We'll get there. But so one thing is like going into a new marketplace where you are going to be visible on Amazon. And if, how common is it people, like bad actors, we'll call them, are on Amazon. They go, I like the look of that name. I'm going to go and see if I can trademark that. Going to go register that. Then they're at the front of the queue, and then 9 months later they're saying, hey, you need to change. Like, does that in reality happen, or what do you notice?
Happens. No, it absolutely happens. I've seen it happen. I mean, it's not, I don't want to scare people, and I mean, I don't think it's super common because, again, I mean, you've really got to like that brand name and make that at least that $275 investment and spend the, even if you just did it on your own to go off and do something like that. So you've really got to be a bad actor and pretty nefarious, but it happens. What I've seen more commonly is, it wasn't someone acting, badly, but it was someone who just the nature of the mark was, maybe it was kind of descriptive of the product or the niche. And so someone else had just kind of already registered or was in the process of registering a mark that wasn't exactly the same, but it was similar enough that it was ultimately going to prevent the New Zealand mark or the foreign mark from being registered here in the States. So that one of the kind of the first ports of call is you all think about if you are an existing rights holder and you're looking into a new market, whether it's .com or somewhere else, make sure that you're free to use the mark there. Run a search just to see, one, is it available? And then two, if it is, are there any confusingly similar marks that might make registration difficult? Because you have a mark in New Zealand doesn't mean that you have any rights over here in the States.
Correct. And so that's a non-negotiable, really. If you're going to sell in the States, you need to check that you can, because I know we've had companies that haven't been able to sell, or they could go, but they're going to get in trouble straight off the bat.
They could go, or they're going to get in trouble, or they could go and they might have to get a license agreement in place, or it just just by doing a simple quick search, it puts you makes you informed, right? And then you can make a business decision of, okay, is it more, do I want to risk it and just go for it? Do I want to rebrand? Do I want to, try to proactively get in front of this and maybe engage this other rights holder and see if they're good with me selling over here? I mean, there's a lot of strategies and a lot of angles to work. You can't work any of them if you don't know what you don't know. And so a little bit of knowledge gives you a lot of power, for sure.
Good. And kind of linked to that is, and there's a question around, does USA have prior use when it comes to brand trademarks? So no one can register your trademark if you're first in the market. So does being in the market have any weight versus
it does.
The actual trademark registration?
No, it does. I mean, that's one of the kind of common misunderstandings over here, at least of US companies, is that, this notion that, well, I have to register the trademark to have one. It's not true. As soon as you take that mark and you stick it on a product and you start to sell it, you have rights. Now, you have trademark rights, you have enforceable rights, you could take people to court, you could do all those things. The problem is you only have rights in the geographic area where you sell. And so in the old days of traditional brick and mortar where, it's Louisville, Kentucky, I've got my nice little brick and mortar store and people from about 50 miles ever come to see me and know my brand, that's fine. That's easy enough to determine, right? My geographic scope is understandable. But if I sell e-commerce, right? If I'm on an online platform, it could be I make a couple of sales here in Kentucky, maybe a couple in California. I never sell anything in Idaho. Florida is a hotbed for me. I effectively sell everywhere, but I don't sell anywhere, at least for geographic scope purposes. And so really, the value of a federally registered trademark is that it eliminates that entire question. Obviously, now you don't have to worry about, well, do I have rights here or do I have rights there? Did I make enough sales in Idaho to matter? if you've registered with the Patent and Trademark Office, the entire United States is your playground. You own the
Yeah.
rights, you're out there. Now, if someone has, let's say I've registered, a mark, and someone out there just, has been selling using the same mark on very similar products for years. Could they block my trademark? Absolutely. Could they, after it's issued, could they come and try to cancel it? Sure, they absolutely could. The point being, prior use matters here in the state.
Okay, good. And then still, because a few questions come through on this one here. In terms of the trademark, so the question is, even from the SwiftPoint guy, like, he's in electronics, but if someone was in baby, with in a baby category, like, are you good with that? You can have the same name but completely different categories, and that works?
Technically speaking, you can. I mean, so the rule is that, if there's a likelihood of consumer confusion between the electronics brand and the baby brand, it's not going to be allowed to register. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not there's consumer confusion takes into account a lot of things. It's the exact mark, the linguistically how it sounds, the channels of commerce, the sophistication of the consumer. I mean, there's a lot of things that, come into play in terms of, well, is it, can I register a same or similar mark in a different class? If you were telling me, without knowing anything about marks, is it likely that, a consumer over here who knows that SwiftPoint is, big in the electronic space and is selling, there's a SwiftPoint, sippy cup, or, one of those stickable bowls that you put on the table, or, pacifiers? Probably not. I'm going to know that the electronics person isn't making those, but baby monitors or baby cameras, or, something more in the electronics vein, it could be a problem. It really just kind of depends.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a very nuanced analysis.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool. Now continue on. I'm aware of the time, but
closing thoughts. We got it right here. So my closing thoughts, hopefully that was decently helpful for you guys. Know that Amazon's an amazing platform, and it gives you access to incredible opportunities, all from the comfort of your own laptop. But it does create this notion of, you can't create new product pages just every time you want to upload something. If the product page exists, you got to list on it. It does create an environment where infringement's allowed to exist. You, as a brand holder, a rights owner, you have the responsibility for policing your private label on Amazon. That means doing things like brand registry. That means doing things like participating in the transparency program. That means bundling your items when possible. That means, it's not Amazon's deal. It's your deal. You're the brand owner. Amazon will give you tools, and Amazon will give you opportunities to kind of, police your brand, but they're not the big bully of making sure that people are following MAP policies. Amazon will not enforce a MAP policy. Amazon will tell you exactly what I told you at the start of this webinar. That's a contractual matter. Go deal with the people to the contracts. We're just a platform selling things. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, all of this, at least in terms of protecting your brand, becomes much simpler if you're brand registered. And again, as you all, the way I'm advising clients these days is clear your mark, make sure that you have a mark that's protectable, register your mark, right? Secure brand registry, and then get transparency. It's kind of a multi-step process. And I think if you effectively kind of work through that, you're going to be doing everything reasonably that you can do, and on the platform to really protect your rights on Amazon. So if you're serious about your business, take your business seriously, invest in protecting your intellectual property. Okay.
Exactly. And that's so transparency. We'll maybe talk some questions on that after this as well.
Yeah,
so
we can do that.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things, Hamish, I hate that, we scheduled a webinar last week, and then it was Halloween over here, and I had to go out trick-or-treating with the kids, for sure, because you only have those memories once. I wanted to do something just to give a little bit of extra value to folks. If you go to privatelabelprotection.com, which is, my Amazon website, your private label website, you can download a free, what I call the brand protection blueprint. So you've got the recording here tonight, you got the slides, and hopefully it's good information and strategies for you. In the brand protection blueprint, I'll give you a nice framework for, here's what the different types of intellectual property are that you should care about. Here's how it relates to Amazon, and then what to do about it. So I put the value at $197. It's good information. It's a short, quick guide. but go, download the thing, take it home with you. If you don't want to, you can email Hamish. I'll email a copy. I mean, it's not about an opt-in or a sign up for this sort of thing. It's just to kind of help you guys and give you some additional guidance. So definitely check that out if you're keen to it.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, look, I really you're crazy not to get that. It's fantastic. So, look, people, I'm aware of the time. Some of you probably need to go, and we've also got some questions that'll be good to ask. Or if you have any other questions, are you okay, Robert? If for another 5-10 minutes, if we do that. So
answer the
that's
questions.
that's great. So for those of you that have to dash, thank you so much for being on this live training today, and hopefully you found that really useful from Robert to give you more context. And I do encourage you to connect with Robert if you have got, if you do want to get a trademark in the States, or even just have an initial conversation to go, look, do we have a problem here for a start or not? I know many of you have already connected with Robert, or through the Amazon Accelerator program, you've got that introduction as well. So thank you for those people that do have to dash. So in terms of some other questions, though, if you do have questions, put them into the Q&A part. There is one here as well that I think, well, the answer is quite a tricky one.
Okay.
Because what can happen, what's been happening on occasions is distributors are selling to Amazon vendor central, and then you've got Amazon as the hijacker. So, and then have you had that situation there, or how do you find out who is actually selling to Amazon?
I have, and that is a tricky one. And as much as I would love to give you, just a magical legal answer, there's not one. Right?
Yeah.
As long as you are buying a product lawfully in the States, I mean, there's nothing that stops me from going down to the local store tonight, buying, 100 pairs of Nike shoes, and then turning around and selling them on Amazon, whether Nike wants me to or not, right? Because I bought them lawfully. That's retail arbitrage. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Effectively, that's kind of what Amazon's engaging in on its own. The key to stopping that sort of thing is that distribution agreement, right? It's that agreement that you have as you make those sales with those Ironmans of the world to say, hey, listen, you can sell this. You can sell it on Amazon. You just can't sell it directly to Amazon. Here are the things you can do. Here are the things you can't do. And if you don't want Amazon getting its hands on products directly through Vendor Express or whatever other new program they come up with, just specify it. Make it clear in the agreement, because at least then you've got something to hold up and say, hey, you shouldn't have done this. And you still have the problem of tracking down, where did it come from? And so, maybe you do something like transparency, and that just makes it a little bit easier to kind of track down the leak in your supply chain. But ultimately, the answer is an administrative one or an operational one, as opposed to a legal one, unfortunately.
Okay. So distribution agreements, is that something you help people with?
Yeah, absolutely. Can certainly help with that.
Okay, great. Then, so thanks for that. And then transparency is something that we'll need to dive in, because I know it is very new. I just came across it literally last week or 2 weeks ago. So so that is really. Have you been through that process yourself yet, or anyone gone through yet that you know?
Not yet. I have a couple people. I mean, it is literally super, super new. I have one client that just got it. I mean, I'm talking like a matter of weeks, and is kind of working through it. Yeah. Effectively, what it is instead of traditional barcode that you've purchased and you're putting on the product, Amazon's giving you a special code, a QWERTY code with unique identifiers. They're issued by Amazon. They're controlled by Amazon. Amazon's effectively even helping you put them on the packaging, so there's not a leak there. And then as products that are transparency registered come into Amazon's warehouses, if those products don't have the code, they're immediately destroyed. If those products have codes that are the incorrect codes, they're immediately destroyed. Like, effectively, Amazon's gating listings for transparency owners. Now, and philosophically and ideally, those sound fantastic, and all those things are great. I think right now they're working out the kinks, and I did get some feedback that the packaging process was a little cumbersome and a little difficult. I suspect Amazon, being what it's being, is going to iron that out quickly. But again, philosophically, if you can get to a spot where Amazon is effectively only allowing authorized products into its warehouses, that's a really good place to be, and why I'm pushing people towards the transparency program.
Super, super good stuff. Yeah, certainly that's going to be relevant for a lot of our people, particularly around that
Absolutely,
distribution
100%. Yeah.
control. So what else we got here? Is there? Oh, here we go. This is one that so often some people come up with. Look, Amazon's looking at products that are going really well, and then they decide, oh, we'll go sell that under Amazon Basics or
We'll do the
Amazon
same thing. We can do it
brand.
better, and it's Amazon Basics. Yeah. So that's where I think the brand protection blueprint will be really helpful, because it gives you some strategies for identifying, well, what intellectual property do you have, right? We talked a
Yeah,
lot about trademarks tonight because, private label is kind of that, and, branding is trademark law. But depending on the nature of the product, it could be that there are other avenues you can pursue to protect yourself. So I'll even give you an example. Amish, we didn't plan this, but I'll play along. So one of my products, that right there is a registered patent. I kind of went the non-traditional private label route, and there was a product that other people were selling that I thought, you know what, I can make that a little better. I can do something a little different. I've got a different design. And when you think about it, the design of a product, you're not necessarily thinking about trademark. You're thinking about copyright. You're thinking about patent. And so
yeah.
I like this design so much. I'll give you just a little. It's all publicly available. So that is an anti-vibration washer feet with some specially designed cleats on the bottom that I came up with. So
Genius.
it was a bucket list item for me to get a patent. And so I checked off the bucket list item. And in addition, if Amazon ever wanted to sell, they sell anti-vibration washer feet 100%. They could do it all day long. They can't sell one that looks like that. They're going to have to, mine is rectangular. They're going to have to make it a circle. Mine have cleats, in a special, sort of configuration. They're going to have, something else down there. So as you think about, kind of protecting yourself from Amazon, you could have a couple of options. The more unique your product is, there's more than just a trademark that you can leverage to protect it, for sure.
Yeah, that's good, because someone was asking here, it was Anj, can you talk about registering patents? Is it possible to put a patent on a design feature, and what happens if someone copies this? So, so I know that could be a long answer to that, but even just a short.
Yeah, so the short answer is yes. There are two types of patents. You can protect the design of a product. And so what I've protected there is literally the design, not the function, not the absorbing function. Or you can protect the utility of a product. I'm seeing a lot of problems right now with people who have gotten design patents like I've gotten, that are using them as a sword against people to say, hey, this is a really dumb, boring item, and I have a design patent on it, and Amazon reacts very strongly to patents. And so, you very much can get a patent on a design. And right now it's a really big sword in your Amazon toolkit in terms of protecting your brand. So certainly something to consider, for sure.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Right, what else have we got here? So in terms of patent design, like ballpark, like how long does that take and cost? Like I've heard scary numbers like $40,000 and 3 years and things like that. Like what?
Yeah,
Where is that at?
all of those numbers are true. Design patents are generally simpler and more straightforward. You can easily get one for a couple $1,000s. That includes like preparation of the application, the drawings, all of that. I think I didn't do that myself. I hired that out because only a fool has himself as an attorney. And I think it was like $1,500 all in. So effectively,
Okay.
I mean, it's a decent, it's a nice investment, but not
Crazy. Yeah.
not crazy. Utility patents are a different ballgame. Utility patents can get very expensive very fast. I tell people to at least ballpark 10,000 US for just kind of a basic utility patent. And the process can be several years. So it's much more complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's different here. So that was what a couple of people were asking there as well. All right. What else have we got there that's come through? How much does it cost? Okay. So that was just a repeat of that. Well, so Alan, Mark, in terms of with your correct packaging requirements, that's probably, like particularly with food, that's more of an FDA one. So maybe we'll talk about that offline, if that's okay. And what else have we got here? I've got one here that I think we may have answered So if you are fulfilling a product out of New Zealand, like you're doing fulfilled by merchant, not
Right.
FBA,
Yep.
and it's got a New Zealand trademark, but you're selling it in the USA, that would just be, it'd be like what we discussed there. It's, I mean, you're selling in the marketplace. If you, that may or may not be a problem, but if someone said, "Hey, go away, I'm already selling that," you would just have to change, but you haven't
You'd
committed a
have to
whole lot of
rebrand
to
or
it.
whatever. I mean,
Yeah,
technically speaking, as soon as you enter the marketplace, and if you had an infringing trademark, one that was confusingly similar, you would incur liability. So again,
yeah,
what I would encourage people to do before they get to market, just do a basic clearance search. There's,
yeah,
USPTO.gov is a publicly available site. You can go in and kind of play around with it and do trademark searches.
yeah,
I use a little more elegant clearance solution that gives you a little more detail.
yeah,
Um, but
yeah.
it's not a tremendous investment to do that. And frankly, it's just a nice insurance policy and should let you sleep a little better at
Mm,
night, for
mm.
sure.
So that's good. So I think in summary, folks, look, thank you for being on here. And really, what we're talking about is this sales channel off Amazon is really one that is a tremendous opportunity, and this is about foundations. You've built your Amazon sales channel on solid foundations, then you can sleep well at night.
Yeah.
And these sort of investments of going, right, let's get brand registered, so we need to get a US trademark, which is, if you're serious about we're committed to this market, let's do that. You've got the filing fees, and then Robert's fees are, like, I think, very reasonable. They and if you do connect with Robert, which I strongly encourage you to do, you'll find that I think it's even like at one level it's nearly $700 for that process plus the filing fees on top. So it's not crazy money. And when you think, I mean, we've got clients like at this time of year now that are selling $2,000 a day. So it's like, when you put it into context of where this marketplace can go for you, you do just want to protect it. And it gives you more, it just gives you a sword, basically, when if you do have these hijackers, if you do have people trying to have a crack, you've got something there that is tangible that you can go with, right? And so that's one part, to protect your brand. The other part is it literally does give you, brand registry gives you much better marketing and advertising opportunities on the Amazon platform. And increasingly, this is what I've seen, this trend where Amazon is trying to say, look, we're about dealing with proper companies, that or proper brands. They want to be seen as premium end, they're not the eBay end. So you get headline ads that you can do, you get storefront, you get enhanced brand content, and there's also going to be another advertising option come out soon in terms of under the buy box. So there's like 4 extra things you do. It absolutely means you will make more money selling on Amazon. So it's not like a cost that you begrudgingly do. It's like an investment in making more sales on the platform as well. And so that's really what this is all about. And so thank you, folks. So having said that, we get a couple of late questions coming through. So Paul has put through, for those that Paul's part of our team, Paul Easton, he's got the trademark search, which I'll just put into the whole group. There's a link there for where you can go check out that. Then I've just had one late one here regarding ownership of your product. Once you sign up to Amazon, is there anything in the fine print that actually gives Amazon any legal right over the ownership of your product? Not really.
They own the listing. You own the product. You own the trademark. You own the copyright to the product photos, the sales copy. But Amazon's not taking ownership of your products.
No, that's right. Good, which is fine. So hopefully that helps there, Ben. Brilliant. Okay. Hey, well, look, thanks so much, Robert. You've been very generous with your time and evening there, and so that's great, and really do appreciate that. And thank you, everyone else, for being here. So all the best for the rest of your Thursday here in New Zealand, and as the week. As we fly towards Christmas, holy smoke! This is pretty crazy. Only 5 or 6 weeks ago. So thanks everyone. Really appreciate it, and especially you. Thanks, Robert. Okay.
Thanks you all. Be well.
Okay. All the best now. Thank you. Bye.